Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. And thank you so much for being here with us today. I am really excited about the topic that we're going to talk about. You know, I think of myself as your spiritual friend. I'm that person who has really tried a lot of different things. I've been a spiritual seeker my whole life, really. And I think of myself as your spiritual friend. And when there's something big that's happening cosmically, or there's a mystery for us to unravel and for us to explore, I want to be your go-to person leading you into that discovery or guiding you through some of those shifting currents that you're moving through, that I'm moving through. We all feel it in our lives. And one thing I've really heard from a lot of you is just how everything feels a little foggy right now. And we talked about Neptune's influence a couple of episodes ago, and we talked about it in my episode with Caroline Casey. But I really wanted to go in deep and give you kind of like an astrological 101 explanation of Neptune and what Neptune means for you personally in your chart and how to move through these Neptune transits with more ease and more grace, because there are some incredible opportunities for us to up level, for massive consciousness shift that's taking place in our personal lives and that's taking place on a collective level. That's the opportunity with Neptune. So today we're going to talk about Neptune. And we're going to talk about Neptune as it relates to different signs. We're going to talk about Neptune, the myth of Neptune, and we're going to talk about upcoming Neptune transits. Before we get into the meat or the lentils for our vegetarians of this show, we have a future report, you all. It is a future report that there's a lot that's coming up this week and next week. And I wouldn't be your spiritual friend if I didn't guide you through some of these transits, because I'm sure you're feeling it. That's our format for today. We're going to talk about Neptune after the future report. And then I have a really beautiful, sweet cosmic call to action for you at the end. So listen to the whole thing. And don't forget to like and share and subscribe and review all of those things. I love how much how organically this show is growing. And it's because of you. It's because of your dedication and your listening. And I'm so excited to be sharing with you. I hope you can really feel that. I hope it comes through in my voice. Before we get into those things, just another reminder that I have a wonderful, I have so many things coming up, you all. I am just so grateful and so thrilled to share this body of knowledge and this work with you. So in September 2nd through 6th, I'll be at the Omega Institute. If you have never been to the Omega Institute, stop everything. Go to their website, eomega.org, and check it out. Omega it's a retreat facility, but it's so much more. It's a place where you can hear some of the greatest spiritual minds, teachers, thinkers in the world. And it's a place of community. This is my 4th time teaching at Omega this year. And every time I've taught, we've had life-changing experiences, life-changing relationships. And my upcoming workshop, Modern Day Magic, Own Your Power, Shape Your Life, is really a workshop that's designed to put you back in the driver's seat of your life. It's, a time to heal that witch wound. It's a time to really clear through any fears or any beliefs that might be holding you back. It's going to be so incredible. So stop everything, look at omega.org and sign up for the class. Then I'm also going to be teaching with the Shift Network in November, and I'll have more details about that. But I'm teaching a class on astrology and psychic medium. And then those of you in the UK, I will be speaking, I'll be keynoting at the UK Astrological Conference. And that is, I'm also giving a talk. So that is, I think it starts on August 29th, and my keynote is on September 1st. And if you want to go and geek out about astrology and learn more than your brain can contain in a weekend, then come to that workshop or conference. It is awesome. Okay, so there are my announcements. Thank you for giving me just a few minutes to share them with you and to let you into the excitement, to invite you into the excitement. Now we'll get into our future report. This is where we explore the upcoming astrological transits and what they mean for us collectively and individually. We have some powerful, dynamic transits on the horizon. So let's dive right in. Now, this podcast is going to be released before these transits. And so you're going to want to get your calendar out, get a pen and paper, and write down some of these dates. So Venus enters Leo on July 11th, and it stays in Leo until August 4th. Happy, happy day for all of our Leos and Leo risings. This Venus is the planet of beauty, of love, of relationships. And when she enters the sign of Leo, Leo is the sign that's all about expressing ourselves and expressing love. And so we tend to approach relationships more confidently, more heart-centered. We might be inclined to declare our love for another person. We tend to be more loyal when Venus is moving through Leo. I also find this on a really practical level. I also find this a time when we're interested in how we look. Venus relates to our personal style, and our natal Venus shows us how we express our style. What colors are we wearing on the spectrum? Are we emo? Are we goth? Are we, preppy? Our Venus gives us the clues to how we present ourselves to others. It's just a little hint for you. There's a little astrological 101 tidbit for you that is coming to you here from a Libra, from a Venus-ruled Libra. So when Venus is in Leo, we really want to express ourselves fully. We want to shine our light. And so this is a transit that opens us up to enjoy ourselves. Venus, yes, is the planet of style. Yes, is the planet of relationships. Yes, is beauty and harmony. But Venus is also our sense of self-worth and how capable we are of enjoying ourselves. And when Venus is in Leo, we tend to want to do a little bit more relaxation. We want to nurture the quieter, softer side of ourselves. And we also want to really create. So this is a great time for you if you're thinking about taking an art class or a pottery class, or if you're thinking about doing stand-up or up on stage in some way, doing Toastmasters. When Venus is in Leo, we have a little bit more of the awareness of what our heart is compelled to say. A couple of things we want to just be on the lookout for. Leo loves storytelling. It loves expression. It loves creative processes. And sometimes if we don't have a target for that creative energy, then our subconscious mind goes out and it looks for where can I go and stir up some interesting storylines, which can then translate to drama. And so you want to make sure that you are really balancing your own creative urges with the rest of the obligations in your life, with your relationships. And one of the things that we want to be mindful of too is not getting worked up about something that is triggering us in our relationships. And this is especially true on July 12th because Venus is going to oppose Pluto. Dun, dun, dun. So Venus opposite Pluto can just be power struggles. It can be intense. It can be like there's a transformative process taking place for us in relationships. And what happens is that a lot of the fears or desires or urges that have been suppressed or just kind of quiet beneath the surface start to come up. And so relationships go through this reinvention process or this exploration process where you might become more aware of what is challenging for you in your relationships and some of those deeper subtexts that are operating beneath the surface. And so don't take it to the bank. Have the awareness, know that you don't have to make a move. You don't have to rock the boat or throw the baby out with the bathwater. I love using cliches for Pluto. Just be mindful of the growth opportunity in your relationship. The big event astrologically of this period, though, is the Mars-Uranus conjunction on July 15th. Mars, the planet of fire and passion and assertion, is meeting up with Uranus, which is the planet of electricity. It's the planet of sudden change. It's also the planet that urges us into freedom or into deep connections with groups. This transit, it happened last in 2022. And what we saw at that time were fires, wildfires, and definitely it was fire season. I believe it was in August, but I don't remember the exact date. And so we saw wildfires and we also saw floods. And one effect of Uranus in Taurus, one thing that we have seen have been more natural weather incidents and tectonic shakeups. So this transit can bring those kinds of unexpected events, but they can also bring breakthroughs and movement to bringing us more independence in our lives, bringing us more freedom, especially if you're a Taurus. So this is one of those transits where you want to be mindful of your words. Things can feel impulsive. There can be a buildup of energy. And because Mars isn't very happy in Taurus, we could have things like pressure buildup without a lot of release. And I think there's volcanic activity happening right now. That's the kind of vibe that we feel in our own person, in our own lives when we have this transit. So the energy is exhilarating. It's also a little unpredictable. So find healthy outlets for your stress. Find ways to work on projects, collaborate with others, get out and be outside. Probably not the best day to do any kind of high risk, high adventure sports if you're not that inclined to do so. But it's a time to really balance the excitement and the grounding. And how do we stay grounded when things feel like they're lifting into a new direction? And this is followed by a transit on the 18th that I love, and it's Jupiter quintile Uranus. And quintile is a harmonious minor aspect, and we have it between the planet of beauty and pleasure and love and connection and heart, which is Venus, and Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion. And Jupiter is also the planet that makes us curious to learn and to explore. And what are we learning and what are we exploring? Well, because it's falling on the heels of that Uranus-Mars transit, we are breaking through fear on the 15th, 16th, and 17th. And then what emerges for us as a desire, as a focal point on the 18th is really the creative potentiality stemming from everything that needs to be evolved or that needs to change. This is a very problem-solving transit. This is the time to get together and have your brainstorm. This is a time to think about how you can grow or how you can progress or how your business or company can grow and progress. It's a time when we're willing to explore unconventional ideas. And a quintile is always a little bit more of a subtle influence. So there's an awakening of a creative urge that we don't necessarily know how to put into practical application yet or practical form. But there's a sense of, I can do this. I can do this. And one of the ways I think this could play out is that we've seen with the French election and the election in the UK, different sides, and especially in the French election, different sides coming together to say we need to create real solutions. And with the UK election too, it's like we're balancing the scales from where they were. And here, we're going to do more episodes all about the US election, but Anne Ortley said it beautifully last week. We really are in a major transition with the US Pluto return and that giant turning point that we're going through. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to Neptune at the 29th degree and Neptune in Aries. Quintile suggests that we can put our differences away to create something that hasn't been considered, or there's an opportunity to harmonize polarity. Now, Venus transits don't last more than a day or two. And so I don't think this isn't an ongoing long transit, but I think it could be an opening for us as we navigate some of the challenges that we're facing right now. And as we navigate these transits, remember that astrology offers us a map, but we are the ones driving the car. We are the ones steering the ship. And so use the energies to your advantage, but stay open to all kinds of possibilities. And astrology should never be a limiting force. It's made for us to find context, to find meaning, and to really understand ourselves in the context of the world. So thank you for joining me for the Future Report. And now I am going to introduce you to Neptune. Conversation about Neptune is going to be 3 parts. The first part is just a primer. What does Neptune mean? The second part is going to be looking at the Neptune transit that's coming up, with Neptune entering Aries next year, 2025. And even just a glance back at what was happening 165 years ago when Neptune was last in Aries. And we'll do some collective visioning to see what potential outcomes there could be with that transit. And then finally, I'll talk about what Neptune means for you, and that will be your call to action. So the Neptune, starting with Neptune, the myth of Neptune. Let's start with that. So Neptune was known as Poseidon in Greek mythology, and it's the god of the sea. It's also the god of earthquakes and horses. Neptune holds a similar position as Poseidon, and he rules over all bodies of water, and he really embodies all the different aspects of water. So water in the sea can rage and storm. It can be calm and gentle like a wave. It can carry us from one place to another. Water is a great conductor of energy. And so think about water for just a minute, because water perfectly gives us such a deep symbolism for understanding Neptune in our charts. How many of you have ever had a flood in your house, or have ever had pipes burst, or have ever had a leaky sink or toilet? You know that the trickles of water, or the water infiltrating your system, can build up into mold or can store toxicity. Water that sits still can have all kinds of compounds and algae and things growing on top of it. So water is a source of life, but water can also it can hold the impurities of our environment. Water symbolizes the emotions. When you look at any kind of dream symbolism, or when you look at the symbolism of water, the element of water in astrology, it's the emotional, subconscious aspects of ourselves. It's the feeling part of us, which means the sensing part of us, which means that it's in our bodies and not necessarily in our minds. Neptune relates to the deep felt sense of our mystical oneness. It relates to our openness to that sense, that felt sense, openness to emotions, or our resistance to feeling those feelings. Neptune is associated with intuition, with psychic abilities. Neptune also shows us our dreams and our desires that we want to manifest in our lives. But it can also be an indication of what is a fantasy, what will never come to fruition, or of what is an illusion. And when we realize that those dreams are never going to materialize, then we can feel disillusioned, or we can feel deeply disappointed. Also, thinking about the image of water. Water, if you look at anything underwater, if you've ever tried to open your eyes underwater in the pool or the ocean, you know that you can't see things clearly. Or if you've ever put a straw in a glass of water, in a clear glass of water, the water distorts the images of things. So it shows us the crystalline dream ideal of something, but then it also shows us a vision that is hard to grasp or hard to reach. And if you've ever tried to reach for something at the bottom of a creek, for example, you might notice that it moves, it shifts. That is how we experience Neptune in our own lives. Water can trickle. It can also flood. So water has lots of different ways of moving, but water needs to move. Or, like I said, it builds up toxicity. It holds toxic things. Water needs to meander, ideally, as I learned in feng shui. So Neptune is, going back to the myth of Neptune now, Neptune is one of the Olympian gods, and he was born to Saturn. And Saturn is Kronos in Greek mythology, and he is the brother of Jupiter. Now, Saturn, we talked about. The myth of Saturn is that Saturn received an oracle, a message, a prophetic message, that one of his children was going to overthrow him and take the throne. And so Saturn proceeded to swallow his children. And Jupiter was also the sun, and Jupiter was saved through the mercy of his mother. And Jupiter proceeded to poison his father and rescue his siblings. So they overthrew their father, Pluto, Neptune, and Saturn, and Jupiter, rather. And so the three brothers did out amongst themselves to divide the realms. And Neptune won dominion over the sea. Well, Neptune wasn't exactly happy about this. And so Neptune is often depicted as like raising his trident and starting storms. You know, he wasn't the god of the sky. He wasn't the powerful god of the underlord like his brothers were. And so there's some symbolism there about Neptune kind of not getting what he wanted. And he's frequently shown riding a chariot drawn by sea creatures and having a real connection with horses as well. So Neptune's personality really reflects the nature of the sea itself. He can be calm, he can be benevolent, but he can also be vengeful. And he's kind of known for his quick temper and violent storms and earthquakes. And he's known as an earth shaker. And if we unpack the mythology of Neptune, we can see themes of power, of creativity, of mysterious forces of nature, working with nature. We can also see a bridge between this realm, the physical realm, and the spiritual realm. That mysterious, invisible that we think of or that we conjure in our imaginations when we look at the Neptune astrologically relates to things like the entertainment industry, anything that helps us to bridge our imaginations or to sort of tap deeper into that sense of mystical oneness that we experience when we're in deep meditation or we're on a plant medicine journey. Neptune influences, Neptune transits can show us times when we're more susceptible to drugs or alcohol, the effects of drugs and alcohol. It can also show us times when we might be more inclined to have out-of-body experiences or do more adventurous spiritual seeking. And transiting Neptune has been in Pisces since 2012. And what that means for us is Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And Pisces is the sign that is ruled by Neptune according to modern astrology. I personally use traditional rulerships, but modern astrology assigns Neptune to Pisces. And so Neptune's at home in a sign that it is very comfortable with. So Neptune and the sign of Pisces relate to things like drugs, drug rehab, drug treatment, relates to things like creativity, like art, that brings us into an emotional experience of connection to our own creative processes. It relates to things like magic and spirituality and religion too, in the way that religion connects us to the divine, not necessarily as the rules and order of religion, but how does religion take us away from our egos and allow us to feel that sense of oneness? All Neptune transits are for the purpose of our enlightenment. And I think of that in a very Buddhist sense of the word. It's for non-attachment in the Buddhist sense of the word. It's for reveling in the mysteries that we are and the mysteries that we are a part of. Neptune in Pisces amplifies all of that. And then it takes it into the mainstream and it makes it big. And it does that through media, through the stories we tell, through social media and influencers. It does that through churches, religion, and religious ideology. It does that through our own spiritual awakenings. And since Neptune has been in Pisces, we have seen a rise in astrology. One other feature of Neptune in Pisces has been the rise of the cult and the cult leader. And I think that's really something that we can attribute to Neptune in Pisces, because there's an ungrounded quality to that placement, where a lot of our beliefs and a lot of our religious ideologies from our childhood or from growing up are starting to shift, and we're starting to question what's real and what's not. And in the process of that, I think there are a lot of people who are looking for their guru or their spiritual leader, their priest, their pastor. And so we see these spiritual movements emerging, these prophet movements, even in the New Age, a lot in the New Age. We had podcasts like Conspirituality coming out, launching during this time. And so now that Neptune is at the 29th degree of Pisces, all of this is really coming to a head. In mundane astrology, which is the branch of astrology that deals with world events and collective trends, Neptune's influence can really be seen in the rise of spiritual movements, artistic innovation, social idealism. However, it can also show us scandals and confusion and deception. And so overall, Neptune feels a little bit like a cosmic fog machine. And so it creates a mystical atmosphere where you can be watching. This would have never happened, 15 years ago, where you can be watching a show and they're talking about Mercury retrograde. It's like in our zeitgeist. So as we look ahead to the astrology of 2024 to 2026, Neptune plays a significant role. So it's at the 29th degree right now, and it's very close to Aries. So it enters in March, and that's when we have the first round of Neptune in Aries. And then it kind of goes back, and it goes back into Pisces, and then it enters Aries again fully and finally on January 26th of 2026. So all of next year, we're moving back and forth, starting this new cycle. And then that lasts until 2029. So Neptune cycles are about 14 years long. Let's give you some astrological context. Neptune last entered Aries in 1861, and it hovered over the cusp of Aries and Pisces from 1861 to 1862, and then it entered Taurus in 1875. What was happening at that time, you might wonder? Well, this was the start of the Civil War, but there were wars that were happening in other countries as well. Remember, Aries is the sign of war. And wherever Neptune is moving, it's showing us spiritual evolution. It's showing us non-attachment through the themes represented by that sign. Am I saying that we're going to have war? I'm saying I don't know, but that is a possibility when we're talking about Aries. There are other possibilities too. Aries is also an advocate. And, one thing I love about the myth of Aries and and Mars, which is the god of war, which is the ruling planet of Aries, is that Mars didn't need to fight if everyone was fed and everyone was cared for. Everyone had what they need. And Mars was the guardian of agriculture. So inherent within the myth of Aries and Mars, the ruler of Aries, is the sense that as long as we're taken care of and that the needs of the most vulnerable are attended to, then we don't need to fight. We can actually move into protecting ourselves, fortifying our boundaries, instead of erecting boundaries, looking at ways that we can collaborate and work together, pioneering new inventions and new ideas. So I don't think it has to be a war. But if we look back at the last time Neptune was in Aries, we do see war as a big theme. There were wars, the Civil War was happening. We also had the Paraguayan War, the New Zealand wars, the Bhutan War, and others as well. There were reconstruction efforts along with those wars. There were also uprisings. There were also rebellions. And so those were some of the conflictual events that were taking place. But we have to remember, this is a very different time than we are in right now. And, in addition to war, Aries also represents that pioneering spirit, that entrepreneurial instinct. And what we saw with Neptune and Aries in the 1800s was we saw a lot of expansion into new places. We saw a lot of pioneering interests and exploration. For example, in 1863, the first submarine launched to explore the ocean. So we're diving into territories that we haven't seen before. We're gathering new horizons, expanding the horizons that we have. The railways expanded exponentially during that time. We had the Suez Canal built in Egypt. There was a transatlantic telegraph cable that was laid, and it was laid successfully. We had the bicycle craze start. Dynamite was invented. So we had all of these like inventions, and there was a lot of new beginnings that were taking place at the time. And I think that's the opportunity that we have right now. What is the next frontier for us? Where are we going to be exploring and pioneering? I think there will be a lot that we do with exploring consciousness in the quantum field. I think also space exploration and space pioneering and space inventions are going to be something that are really prevalent. And I think there are a lot of untapped territories to explore within our own minds. Aries rules the head. And so I'll be really interested to see what changes with head related ailments or head and age related ailments like dementia and Alzheimer's. It's going to be an exciting time for discoveries and for new beginnings. Also, I just wanted to tell you some of the stories that were being told at that time. This was the last time Neptune was in Aries, we had Les Miserables, War and Peace was published, Crime and Punishment. We also had 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Impressionism went public. There was such a big movement in art and literature, and this was the Victorian age at its height. And so we see these major movements taking place, major movements in sports too, because Aries relates to sports. Aries rules things like sharp objects, surgery. And so we'll see what happens with like brain surgery or plastic surgery. That should be really interesting. Anything related to the face and the head. So Aries relates to sports. It relates to sharp objects, military, weapons, how we protect ourselves and our boundaries. It also relates to that pioneering instinct of where are we going? That's new. What are we discovering? It's me, myself. And so I think there's a lot there will be a movement in spirituality turning to self-referential modalities, things that bring us back into that sense of mystical oneness within ourselves, not necessarily looking for the guru outside, but really bringing more of our spiritual practices within. So it'll be a very interesting time for sure. A couple of major aspects that we'll see. Neptune and Pluto have been moving back and forth in a sextile aspect with one another. And this has been going on for a number of years. And this is another transit that will occur. And that is something that we'll look at. And what I think this relates to is the ways in which our pioneering instincts and technology work together. So technology, because of Pluto's influence in Aquarius, is going to be the focal point for us. And we're going to see a lot with AI, a lot with transportation and flying and the way that we get from one place to another. And we'll also see a lot with space. I said we were going to do some collective visioning. So I want you to think for a moment, thinking about Neptune in Aries, that bold, courageous, pioneering sign. And I want you to just allow your heart to open, maybe to some new possibilities. And if you can close your eyes for just a second and take a deep breath and allow a vision to arise in your mind for what is possible for you during that transit. And often when it comes to intentions, it's the first thing that arises in our mind from the heart. But the heart is the connecting point between our physical lived experience and our spiritual, metaphysical experience. So the heart is where we can attune to discern those next steps, to gain a sense of our felt experience, and to have a little clarity. And so while you are in this visioning space, take a moment and allow a vision to rise for what you would like to see for the world or for your community. And just allow that vision to rise up and make itself known to you. Beautiful, beautiful. Good. Excellent. Okay, I felt that. I felt that with you. I am just going to support those intentions. I'm holding them along with you. And I'm going to quickly go through a couple of astrological. We're going to talk about some signs here. And if you are a Libra, then I'm with you. And Neptune is going to be moving into an opposition with our sign. And so for that period of time, not the entire time, but there will be periods through that time when we are unclear and we are foggy. And if you are born on that Virgo Libra cusp, you're probably feeling this right now. The way that we move through those Neptune transits is that we have to feel our way through. We have to tread in a way where we know there are things that we can't see and things we're not privy to. And so we have to just feel our way through. This is also true for our Cancers and Capricorns. And especially if you're born on those cusps, this is something that you'll experience as well, where it's like a time of not really quite knowing where your direction is, but being attuned to the fact that there is a deeper spiritual awakening that's emerging for you. This is also a time for any of those cardinal signs, Aries, Libra, Cancer, or Capricorn. It's a time when we have to have more boundaries than we otherwise might. And I'm speaking to you, Libras, especially, because there will be people asking for our attention, or, there will be demands, and we have to be clearer about saying no and about being really aware of the fact that our energy might not be as robust as it otherwise is. Neptune transits can make our auras more porous, and that means that we can be more sensitive to environmental toxins, to other people, other people's emotions. We could just be more sensitive to energy in general. I experience Neptune transits as being very great for expanding your intuition or learning something new, learning a new spiritual modality. Great for taking a retreat, for writing, any kind of creative project. It's a very prolific time. If you are a mutable sign, that means you're a Virgo, Gemini, a Sagittarius, or a Pisces, then Neptune is finally giving you a break. It's finally moving out of a more challenging place related to your sun. And so you could expect over the next couple of years that situations that have felt really weird or unpredictable, or like, what is happening to me? Why can I not get clear about this relationship or this issue with my house? And you might feel suddenly as if the fog is lifting and you are coming to the other side. And that clarity is like sunshine through the clouds. You're going to be able to see things that you weren't able to see before. So give yourself permission to change things. If you made decisions, if you fell in love, if you tried to make a relationship work and it just brought you a lot of confusion and there were push-pull dynamics and you don't know what's happening and can you trust this person? If you got into any of those kinds of circumstances over the last 12, 13 years, then now is a time when you can understand a pathway out, either out of the relationship or out of the dynamic. It's literally like the fog lifts. Then if you're a fire sign, so our Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries, this is a time of peak creative energy. It's a time when you probably will be compelled to do things that are romantic, that are like, wow, I can't believe I decided to take pottery class and look how good I am. So follow the instinct that you have, follow your intuition, especially if it's leading somewhere that is inspiring or that is creative or that is spiritual. Taurus. Now for you, this is a period where Neptune is in the sign adjacent to yours. And so for 14 years, there is a reconnection to your spiritual self, but it's not ungrounded. It's not like what our cardinal signs are going through. So for our fixed signs and for Scorpio and Taurus and Aquarius in particular, this is a time of really grounding your creative vision into a practical form. And it's also a time, I think, when you might be less sensitive. Fixed signs, you're the steadfast ones. You're the ones who are usually the ones people go to in times of crisis or emotional turbulence. There might not be that kind of call of duty or, call to action. So this really is a time to prioritize your own emotional experience. And maybe you've been holding hands with someone who's been walking through a challenging journey. Well, now is the time to really focus and center on your own spiritual path. With that said, I am going to leave you with your cosmic call to action. And that is, in honor of Neptune, take 5 to 10 minutes and just connect with gratitude this week and next week. And what I like to do with my gratitude practice is I think of gratitude like a mantra, the feeling of gratitude. What we know about the way energy works is that our emotional experiences are much more powerful in terms of manifestation, in terms of their outreach in our vibrational fields. And so be in the state of gratitude for 5 to 10 minutes. If you do this every day, then you will see subtle shifts changing in your life. And you don't have to think about what you're grateful for. Just allow the feeling state of gratitude to permeate your heart, to move throughout your body. And anytime a thought comes into your head, go back into your heart and go back into the feeling of gratitude. This is the practice we all need before Neptune makes its move. This is the practice that will help us to be aligned to those visions that we conjured when we were all talking about Neptune's place and our visioning power right now. So thank you all so much. Next week, I'm really excited to be back with a very special guest. And we're going to be talking about money. So join us next week. And thank you for listening.